Okay, introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are.
All right, I could do it now. What's up, everybody? This is King Cre8 from South Central Los Angeles, California, representing the Rockin' the Nation crew, West Coast artists, the last true stylish crew, and the magnificent team. I've been doing graph since the age of 9 years old, believe it or not, in the 3rd grade, and back in 1982. And man, it's been quite a journey for me to be able to still exist in the movement or the culture.
Okay, let's start from your humble beginnings.
Okay.
Where are you from and what neighborhood did you grow up in?
Okay, let's see. So I'm from South Central Los Angeles, and I grew up in South Central where pretty much back in the early 80s, when I speak of LA, I have to tell it in the realness of it because, back in the early 80s, it was a different time period and there was a lot of gang activity going on in the hood.
Okay, were there any gangs that controlled that area?
Well, I mean, to a degree, what I'm saying, they had a lot of pull back then, but at that point in time in the 80s when crack cocaine first really hit in the streets, people became more of hustlers in the area where I lived at versus like this gang bang. Even though gang members existed heavy over there, but right there where I was at, like people, they call themselves hustlers and stuff.
Okay, by seeing that and seeing them mark their territories, is that what got you into graffiti?
Um, Sort of, because I was admiring like the block letters that they was doing on the wall. I was admiring the different style of writing. But in terms of on that level, I was inspired. It wasn't until I started seeing like the bubble letters and the colorful letters from the New York influence that really took me to the next level. But keeping in mind that I was also inspired off of cartoons, comic books, movie posters, and record cover albums at that time that was illustrated.
Okay, when did you first start noticing graffiti?
Uh, Early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Because, like in the late 70s, early 80s, like depends on what style. If it's the LA style of block lettering or English lettering, I say late 70s, early 80s. As far as like the New York hip hop type style, I would say same thing, early 80s.
Okay, I assume you started graffiti in high school. What high school did you go to, and were there any other writers that went to the school that paint?
Well, I started way before high school, what I'm saying, but like when I was in high school, my reputation started to grow even bigger because of I was putting in so much work, and I was growing. I was also known for doing real good piecebook work back then at an early age because for me to be so young, my skill level in the books was strong amongst my peers. But as far as people who went to my school, for those of you who are into the music, there's a dude named Tez One. He go by the name of Black Silver, and he run with Kool Keith, Ice-T, and quite a few other MCs from the Alcoholics. I'm just naming some mainstream people that people may have heard of, because some of the other writers, like my crew members, such as Dimmer, Cre8 MC Prophet Prestige, which is now Ben Grimm, and quite a few others, that went to the schoolhouse. They did graph. But we was the ones that stood out because of our presence, of how we made our presence felt on the scene. And we did a lot of artwork for the school in regards to doing murals in the school and to letting us do homecoming backgrounds and graduation background.
Okay, how did you come up with the name Cre8?
Well, actually, I didn't come up with the name. I was given the name back in late 86 or around, like probably mid 86, late 86 or early 87, roughly. I'm Cre8 number 2. There's actually Cre8 1. And Big Cre8, when I was in the 7th grade, he was in the 9th grade. And so we actually got the first, we got the first. we actually got the same first real name. His name is Eric. His name is Eric. My name is Eric. And somehow, you know, I knew he did graph, but I didn't know exactly, you know, at what level, you know, as far as piecing. But I knew that he had a nice signature tag, and he ran with this guy named Mad. And every day at school, we would see each other, and he would call me a biter. Not for biting his style, but for having the same first real name. But we was playing. He'd call me a biter, I'd call him one. But somehow within the situation, he pulled me to the side one day after nutrition, and he said, "Hey man, come here for a minute." He said, "I like your style." He said, "It's something about you, man." He said, "You real cool." He said, "Would you like to be Little Cre8?" And at that time, that was an honor for me to be able to have his name, because he was one of the only people at that time that put a number to their name. And that was special, because I remember when I first seen it, I was like, man, what is that? CRE8? Because I didn't think about create in that sense. I thought about create the way we normally would spell it. But my partner, when he showed it, he said, man, I said, what is that? He said, man, it says create. I said, that's not the way create is spelled. He said, you got to think Cre8. I said, oh, damn. So when he told me that, not Big Cre8, but my partner named SKEER, SKEER is the one who told me that's what it said. And so when I found out that's who that was, it was like, man, it was an honor for me to be able to carry the torch running with that name from late 86 all the way, or 87 all the way into the 2020. He don't paint no more, nor do he get up, you know what I'm saying? He been retired way back when we was in maybe junior high school. He gave it up, you know, so I've been running with it ever since.
Okay. Did you go through a phase where you switched up your names?
When I was in elementary school, see, this is the realness of how far I go back. Because when I was in elementary school, right before I graduated from elementary, probably 5th grade, 6th grade, I came up with my nickname, which was Dimension or Easer Theory. And I remember I still got the books with my signatures in it, where I tagged my name up in my elementary school yearbook. And when I got to junior high school, somehow, you know, I was breaking back in elementary too, because I was breaking back in the day and popping, and I'm still breaking pop. But when I was first year of 7th grade, somehow when I was breaking, I was part of a crew called the Fantastic Breakers, and a lot of those guys was highly connected to like a lot of good elite b-boys and stuff like that, and graph writers. And my buddy, his nickname was Trouble, and his other buddy name was Double. So when they break together, they was Double Trouble. Nevertheless, when my breaking name, when I got down with the crew, they was like, man, what you gonna call yourself? And my uncle used to call me Chili Willie when I was young. He said, hey, Chili Willie. So I said, well, shit, man, I'm gonna call myself Chili E, because, you know, my uncle called me Chili, and then my name is Eric, so I said Chili E. And that sounded sort of silly back then, now that I think about it, but, you know, Lil Chili E, that was my b-boy name.
Okay, what year did you first start writing?
My first years of writing. When I first got up, when I very first got up, because I remember writing in elementary in the boys' bathroom, you know, because I liked the gang writing back then when I was coming up. But moving forward off the gang stuff, like when I got to junior high school, when I caught my very first tag, that was 1986, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And when I did that, what I ended up doing was catching that tag. I remember early in the morning on the bus, and I got up and I put in some work, and that was a very good feeling, because when I first got up, I remember my buddies was getting up that morning. We all get to school early, and we go to this place and grab candy out the candy store. Nevertheless, they was all hitting the bus up, and I didn't. I was the lookout to watch their backs. And then they were like, get up, man, you got to get up. And I was nervous, like, damn. Like, man, I don't want to get in trouble. And I remember they like, man, this bus, because before the school bell rang to go to school, they were like, man, you better hit this bus. And I remember they was all hitting it. And then I was the last one to hit it, and my hand was trembling, and I was nervous. And I walked up to the backside of the bus with a watercolor green marker, and I wrote my name. It was real little, and I remember the bus pulling off, and it felt not weird. It felt like interesting to see my name just pull off. And the further in the distance the bus was going, my name got smaller and smaller. And man, it felt so good. It was like, oh, I did it, I did it. And throughout the day, I remember my classroom window was facing the street where I got up on. So I kept looking out the window to see if that bus was gone. Because, you know, it go to one end and then go on the layover and turn back around. And I remember looking out the window and I saw my name on the back of the bus going the opposite direction towards Hollywood. And mind you, that was in South Central where my school was, so it was deep in the hood. So, but the bus travels all the way to Hollywood, so I knew that throughout the day people was gonna see my name floating.
Okay, when you went out painting, did you paint by yourself or did you paint with someone?
Back in the day, I was from a crew called the Organized Crime Artists. And it was me, my partner SKEER, and my homie named Maestro, and a couple of other people. We was very talented back then for us to be so young, man, being 13, 14 years old. You know, we was pretty good. I ain't gonna say we was like super fresh, but for us to be so young, we hung around the right people to pick up good skills. But I painted with them. My mentor name is Rich. We was young hanging around him. He was a grown man, but by us being with him, we didn't have no choice but to be fresh because he was fresh. And if we was doing some whack stuff, we always told each other, man, that's whack. So by us saying that to one another, it made us not want to have each other tell. See, I didn't want nobody to tell me I was whack because that's not a good feeling. So I always had to be fresh with what I was doing, because if I was doing something whack and they told me it was whack, that would have been like pretty painful. So my skill was always polished. I always made for sure I did good work. So we would go to school every day when we was young, and we would show each other pieces in our books, like, what you think, what you think, you know. But when it was time to paint, you know, I was still an amateur back then, you know, because I was beginning on the wall. And my levels on the wall, we used to do silvers a lot. I didn't go out and do a bunch of color work because I didn't have all that kind of paint. So I would go out with cheap silvers with like a dark color outline, and my pieces was so high, and I was like just doing my burners or pieces like that. But what that did was gave me ability to focus on my letter structure at an early age too, because I didn't have to play around with a bunch of color. It was just silver and a dark color.
Okay. So when you, what year did you first get involved with West Coast Artists, and who are some of the members?
Okay, in terms of West Coast Artists is a legendary LA crew, and they've been around since '85. And roughly they're in late '84, '85. And you know, West Coast Artists is a very elite crew in Los Angeles that set the standard for a certain quality and style of how they presented the artwork on the walls out there in the city of LA. And man, I remember looking at photographs of the artwork through going over my mentor Rich house. I was looking at their pieces in the photo album, and then I would get a chance to go see the pieces live on it, like just live on the spot. And every time you would see a West Coast Artist piece, the quality was always like super clean. The colors was always like, damn, that's tight. What made them think of these colors? And I remember 1988, like I wanted to be down with West Coast Artists. Mind you, I'm still young at that time. I had to be about late 14, 15 years old. And so when I remember meeting PJ from West Coast Artists in 1988, I knew of who he was in terms of his artwork, but I didn't never meet him until '88. And so when I first got a chance to meet PJ, I was like all excited, and I'm thinking like I'm good because amongst my peers, everybody looked at me as good. So when I get in front of these dudes, like, hey man, what's up? How can I be down with West Coast? This is 1988. And I remember one of the guys' name was Dello, rest in peace to him. when he was around, he was part of West Coast. I never heard of who he was, but that was the first time me meeting him. And Dello was like looking at my book. Now, mind you, amongst my peers in junior high school, I was good. And at this point in time in '88, I was in high school. So here I am showing Dello from West Coast Artist my piece book. I handed him my book. He flipped through the pages within less than 2 minutes. He didn't, and I had a lot of stuff in my book. So this dude like, whoop, 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 whoop. He flipped through the pages and he handed me my book back. And I'm like, damn, like, that seemed like a diss. I'm like, he didn't even look at it and like, he didn't even say, he didn't have no emotions or nothing. He was just like, here. I said, so what you think? Can I be down with West Coast? He said, you're not ready for us. I was like, whoa. So, man, like, I had to keep putting in work. I showed PJ my work from West Coast Artist. PJ said I wasn't ready, but he gave me a little bit more constructive criticism to where he helped to make me see things different and how I piece today a little bit and how my perspective is on style. I ain't gonna say everything came from him, but he reshaped my thinking of how I approach it and how I look at it slightly. And so I got down with West Coast in 1991. You know, that's when they officially put me in, you know, in 1991.
Okay. Who is your graffiti partner, and do you have any memorable moments of y'all painting?
In the early days, my running partner was SKEER, SKEER. He's like my brother. We used to break together. We dressed like b-boys together, man. We would like have our fresh Latigre shirts on, have our fresh colored Lee jeans on, like aqua turquoise, true blue, burgundy, white, black, man. We had all kind of colors, man, and we would like match our shirts up. We had Kango hats on, not this kind like I got on now, but like other kind of Kango hats, and we would wear gazelles or ski goggles and, you know, cool looking glasses and belt buckles with our names on them. Big old fat laces. We would wear the regular fat laces, and then the super, like the extra fat laces, we would wear those. And you know, I ran with him. After I came out of elementary, going into the 7th grade is when I met SKEER. I met SKEER, in the 7th grade, and he's the one that sort of helped to give me the real essence of what hip hop is all about. Not that commercial kind, but the real essence of what a b-boy is, how to dress properly, how to, like, you know what I'm saying, dress with some style and some fresh, like, finesse to how you rock your stuff. Like, you know, don't wear your hat regular, you know, tilted to the side. So to this day, that's why you see me still busting this way, you know, because we had a certain mentality being young to where we groomed ourselves to be like little young men back then, you know.
Okay. Have you ever battled any other graffiti artists, and if so, who was it and what was the outcome?
Battles. Yeah, I remember in junior high school, once again, I was very well known for having a good piece book for being so young. And there was 3 homies at school. We all knew each other, and we was cool. But a lot of people used to be like, man, you think you all that, man. You know, you ain't the only one that's fresh. So they would tell me, they would say, man, we gonna battle you. I had a little, you know, little attitude back then on me. I was like, well, shit, bring it on. Who want to battle? They said, all 3 of us is going to battle you. I said, well, shit, all 3 of y'all line up. Let's do this. You know, so we gave each other a time frame of how much time to do our piece book work and then come to school. I think it was on a Friday. I might be wrong, but nevertheless, at lunchtime, I remember we stood in a big circle by the lunch cafeteria. It looked like it was about to be a fight, but if we was finna battle with our books, and this was funny because we was standing there in this circle, and people started gathering around because they thought somebody was finna fight, but we had our books. And so I let them 3 go first. They all showed their books, and some of them had some good stuff. It was very impressive. And then it was my turn, and I had a hype man back then. I don't want to call him a hype man, but he was my homie. But he had my back, and he would always pump me up real heavy and like, man, my boy gonna fuck y'all up. He gonna beat y'all, man. Y'all don't got nothing on my homie right here. And you know, he was like this dog in the mouth verbally. So I mean, I stepped up to the plate with my book, and next thing you know, every page I hit, bam, bam, I was just dogging them. And they was like, damn, man, look at his color, look at his letters, look at his characters. And I was just dogging them out through my book. And then on the last page of my book, I beat them with this character. I mean, not that the characters was the key thing, but I showed all my letters and my characters out throughout the book. But on my last page of the book, at that time, Ice-T made a record called Rhyme Pays. And on the back of the book, on the back of the book, on the back of the record cover, he did that, Doze from TC5 did that piece with the Uzi and the T. But I didn't draw that. But my inspiration, because it wasn't that much rap back then that was sold in the record store. So he was one of my influences. I was coming up. I'm talking about like Ice-T music. So I had did that character of him with a Kango hat on, with that fresh blue and red feeler jacket on, with a Uzi in his hand.
Okay. In recent years, you became a member of New York's TMT crew.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and who ended up putting you down with the crew?
Okay. 2011 in Oakland, California. A lot of black graffiti writers, we was out there for an event called AEROSOUL, which is put on by the homie named Reefer. And Reefer put the event on with the help of a few others that we went out there, and a lot of writers, man, was out there. Mode 2, man, like a lot of well-known legendary writers showed up. And so we was all out there as black writers, and man, it was very interesting. Now, I've read and heard about people like Chain 3, but I really didn't fully understand who he was. So that being said, you know, like that being said, you know, I really didn't know the essence of the history of the Magnificent Team Crew or the TMT crew. I seen it in Subway Art, but you know, I really didn't look at it and take heed to it. And so while I'm out there in Oakland, Chain 3, he ended up talking with me for about maybe 45 minutes, you know, at this one spot we was all at. And he was asking me about my history, and he was asking me questions, and I'm talking with him. He started telling me some things, and he heard me do a lecture. So he said, man, you know, you speak very good about this culture and this movement. He said you just need to learn some more things about the elements of what's in this culture as far as the usage of what we paint on the wall. So I was like, well, what does that mean? And he said, man, this, you know, I'll tell you about some different things. So Chain 3 started to speak to me about those elements, and it took me to another level in my writing culture to make me have more of a clearer understanding moving forward. Watch this. So at that event, we all had a chance to paint. On one day, we came out to this big campus ground where they had walls, and I was painting. And so throughout the day, everybody was painting in different locations at this spot. And Chain 3 came by, and he was watching me, and he had a smirk on his face like, yeah, and he was nodding his head. And he said, man, he said, let me talk to you for a minute. He said, man, you pretty good. I said, thank you. You know, I'm like humbly about it, like, thank you. He said, come here, take a walk, take a break, and come for a walk with me for a minute. So I walked with Chain 3 to another part of where we was all painting at. So he said, hey, he said, man, I'm finna talk to the president of Cre8. He talked to Cre8. He said, I'm finna see if, you know, if you could be down with the crew. I said, okay. So he talked to Cre8, and Sack was there, Cade was there, Teen, and Kufu and Reefer was right there. So what Teen did at the time, I mean Chain, what Chain did was he said, hey, he said, man, I want this brother right here down with TMT. This is 2011. He said, what y'all think, man? He said, I think this dude got what it takes. He said, can we put him down with the crew? So they was like, yeah, man, okay, that brother good. Let's put him down. So since 2011, so I've been in the crew for, you know, from 2011 to 2020 right now. I'm still rocking, you know, so yep, that's my involvement.
Do you have any crazy chase stories or raid stories?
I try to be very selective of what I do out there to where I don't have to get caught up in the twist. When I was younger, when I was 13, 14, yeah, I got caught up in some wild chases, man, out the yards. where we was painting, you know, we was always careful, but it's always that person that want to be a hero out there to try to save the day. So man, I remember one day we was at a yard painting, and we was battling another crew, but we got there real early in the morning, and we was sketching and filling in our pieces, and you know, we was getting up. And what ended up happening was somebody was watching us through one side of the gate, and we didn't know what was up. So we was like, they was like, hey, get out of there. Now, mind you, we down in the big ditch. They at the top, and they watching us. So we was like, we was hiding for a second. We was thinking if we would hide for about 15 minutes, maybe they'd go away. So we kept, my boys, they kept staying, telling me, stick your head out, see if they gone. So I'm looking. I'm like, dawg, they still there, man. They still there. And, you know, so at one point I stuck my body out a little too far, and the lady was like, I think it was a man, it was a dude. He was like, didn't I tell you to get out of there? He said, we coming in there. They had a key to the gate. They went through the other entrance. So I told my boy, let's go, man. They coming, they coming. So we run. Now, mind you, man, it didn't have no ladder. And there was a ladder in the yard, but the ladder was ate up by termites, so the ladder was weak. So this little crazy ladder that was missing steps, we tried to climb up the ladder. We climbing up these little wood, metal poles sticking out the cement, and we pulling ourselves up. And man, it was crazy. So we get up there, and I'm trying to hold the board for my buddies. I'm trying to make sure they don't fall. Then we all get up to the top. By the time we all got to the top, them 3 guys came inside the gate that ran the property. And they was coming in after us, man, and I remember, like, for real, like, while I tell the story, I can picture it in my head like a movie. So they was coming in, we made it to the top. So we trying to, now mind you, it's only one exit out, even though they came, but they had a key, so that's why they was able to get in. We only had one exit out through the front street, which is a street called Crenshaw Boulevard. And so when we got up to the top, I remember, by the time my buddy got up to the top, not out the exit, but at the top where we had to get out, them 3 guys was coming closer and closer, man, and we had to, all 3 of us had to get out through the hole of the gate, and the hole in the fence was small. So my boys ran out, but guess what? I was the last one to get out the gate, but guess what happened? So I'm trying to get out, and it was that one dude on the outside of the gate that was with the other guys that was trying to grab us. And so I was the last one to go out, and I remember I was trying to see where he went, and I stuck one leg out, and I stuck my head out the hole of the chain link fence. Soon I stuck my body out, man, this fool tried to grab me in the bear hug, and he missed. And he barely missed. And I was like how you playing football, they trying to tackle you, you swing to the side, your body like that. And man, he chased me all the way down to Florence Boulevard, man. I was running like top speed, mind you. I was foolish because at that time I didn't have I was, you know, we was wearing Adidas with big fat laces. We never tied our shoes and shit. We didn't have no shoestrings in our Adidas at time like Run DMC. So I'm running down the boulevard, going top speed, man. He chasing me, a grown man is chasing me down the hill, and it's like, man, like I got down the hill and there was a bus, and I'm banging on the bus window, and I'm saying, hey, he trying to kill me, he trying to kill me. And they let me on the bus, man. It was embarrassing because when I got on, my adrenaline was so fast that I got on and tripped over the first step of the bus and fell into where you put your money in. Everybody was looking at me and stuff. But yeah, that was a crazy story right there.
Okay, well, we touched on a lot of subjects today. Is there anything that we missed that we need to cover or that we haven't already covered?
Well, for all you viewers out there that's watching this, I would say this to you. Know your history, study your history, understand what you're getting involved in, understand the legacy and the richness of this movement, of what we represent, because it's not just about being reckless with it, it's about making a statement, it's about being creative, it's about the elevation of what you're going to do with it, because a lot of people, they get stuck. All they do is just bomb and get up, and which is sort of the point of doing it, but at the same time, you know, you can't get stuck there. This art form and movement has always been about the growth of taking a tag and then making it go to the next phase and the next phase and the next phase of growing creatively. And so that's where my journey has been So I want to encourage and motivate a lot of people that to not get stuck, you know, because guess what? Some people are in this for short term. Some people is in this culture for long term, and it's like people have to understand, like, you know, where do they fit within this big puzzle or equation to this culture? You know, what are you bringing to the culture? You know, we got culture vultures out there that try to come into culture, and all they do is take, and try to act like they the one who created this. And that's not a good thing. That's like a thing that's like devastating, because it's like, man, once they then start biting away at the culture, you know, they do a disservice to us, man, because they don't really embrace the essence and try to open up the playing field, I would say, for people who have laid down the blueprint. You know, and it's sad that, you know, the playing field is not equal. So since it's not, we have to be able to establish our own foundations and our own ways of conquering things in a good way, to be able to be everlasting in this. So for me to be starting as a young kid at the age of 9, right now I'll be 47. So it's like, for me to be able to be doing it for this long, that should tell you, and the proof is in the pudding. You know, like, man, you gotta have you gotta have a passion and a love for this, man. You can't jump on this as a bandwagon to because everybody else is doing it. You gotta have a love for it. You gotta have a burning desire to want to keep learning and growing through your styles. And as I conclude, I want to give a shout out to, you know, all the people who came before me that laid down the blueprint. Much respect from, you know, my East Coast family out there that have really paved the way. Some of the homies overseas that paved the way, and, you know, to my fellow writers from Los Angeles that have really put in some serious work to lay down another kind of foundation. You know, shout out to Dallas, Texas, you know what I'm saying, the DAP One, and the rest of the homies out here that have showed a lot of good brotherhood, you know what I'm saying, to how we getting down. And shout out to Reefa, you know what I'm saying, Sack and Shane. Shout out to my homies from the Magnificent Team, and, man, everybody, West Coast artists, rocking the nation crew, last to survive. This is the one and only, the grand, incredible Mr. King Cre8, and I'm out of here. Peace.